Greetings everyone, welcome to the Flying Doctor channel. Welcome especially if you've come back, and welcome if you are new. Now, I've installed the latest Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 beta update, taken a good look around, and let me tell you, there are some significant bug fixes and improvements worth talking about. From a revamped community library to aircraft lighting that actually works when you switch it on, and even better night lighting overall, there's a lot to appreciate here. One of the key problems seems to revolve around time for Asobo, not just how much time Asobo has to work on these updates, but how the sim itself handles time internally, whether it's deciding what effects should be active, or how long you should wait next to a runway for permission to enter, or syncing your Zulu time properly. It seems like they're starting to get things in order. And if you've ever had that problem of being asked to contact a non-existent tower, or waiting on an ATC officer who's clearly gone to sleep after a long lunch, you'll know exactly why these fixes matter. As ever, I could not help but do a deep dive to figure out whether Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 is ascending to the heavens or dangerously close to stalling uncomfortably near the ground. So let's geek into it. Welcome to the Flying Doctor channel. So, greetings folks, let's see what we've got. Now, if you go to the landing page for the January the 23rd development update, rather than the patch notes itself, you'll get a little bit more information. There's a couple of things that aren't in the patch notes that I think are really important. The first thing is that there are fixes related to nav data and navigation aids, which is a major part of the simulation, and you can find the full notes of that on the Flight Simulator forums. Just really simple to click on. There we go. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 and 2024 nav data updates, ARAC cycle 2501. If you don't know what one of those is, the ARAC cycles lay out the changes in navigational routes and way markers, and they're regularly updated. Those of you who will use products that draw from the latest updates will know that if your data's out of date, then you'll hit problems with synchronicity in the sim, and you won't find, for example, way markers you need to find that are recommended on your flights. It's got a bit geek, a bit quickly there, but it's a step forward. So yes, Sim Update 1 is now live. The great news is that the beta is available to everyone, all platforms, and there are excellent release notes. Some comments I've noticed on Facebook, mainly from the gaming side of the community, saying, well, the product that should have been released in the first place shouldn't need a beta. Why are we drawing from users to contribute to this beta release program? Well, that is very much, I think, a gamer's sort of mentality in there. On the other hand, this will be like honey to the lips, if you like honey, for those into simming, because we enjoy being part of a community that shapes a project. We shouldn't be surprised at this approach. You can see, for example, the feedback snapshot from January the 16th, 2025 of where they are at the moment, with a whole log of faults and things that are under investigation. What's interesting me as well is that there are still new marketplace releases for 2020, 62 new, 47 updated products. Now, why would Xbox and PC be featuring these? Well, one can only think that these products will all in time be cross-compatible with Microsoft Flight Simulator 24. Plenty to look at there, but let's get down to the basics, which is, what is this update looking like? Well, I can sum it up for you. I've had a good look at this, and there's about 12 points that I can certainly draw from the update notes here. I'll try and streamline things for you and show things in screen as we work through this. So firstly, I would say there's significant improvements being claimed on stability and performance. They've fixed a lot of crashes to start off with. These all here are the details, significant details of how to install the update. But here you go, significant investment in dealing with crashes. Rare crashes, crashes we know about, for example, when you use the skip to feature at the beginning of an exam, potential crashes they're dealing with. So it's all about crashes at the moment and stability for number one. They've also optimized texture memory in gauges, the gauges that you're using to show you basic measurements in the aircraft. The problem was that in some cases those gauges were continually drawing from an excess use of memory, and they were sitting in the background chewing away, and so there's improvements to that. Those have been optimized. Okay, number two would be general bug fixes for me. Controllers no longer go on strike when you are playing with the map filters. If you think about the world map, it's got those filters to the right. Some people were finding that when they were hitting those filters, the controllers were just deciding to go AWOL. So a refining of that, for example, is one bug that's been looked at. But there's an awful lot as well focused on time, the internal clock within the sim as far as I can see it, and also the day, the date, the year. So time in general. Why is that important? Because time cues events in the sim. So I'm wondering whether this might solve, for example, that long wait that you can get, or just nothing happening between a taxiway and a runway when the mission command is telling you you need to wait for permission to move forward. So I think it's related to that. It goes even further than that, I suspect, because you're talking about synchronicity between the date and the time of a mission, and then what actually seems to appear when you arrive on the runway. Also, we've got some backwards compatibility bug fixes, which is really helpful. And what that means is that simply, yes, that we're able to get more opportunity to use and adapt material from 2020 in 2024. Finally, I'm not quite sure how it found itself here, but an emissives brightness fix. So what that means, I think it's your night lighting, and for your night lights, your aircraft won't start, hopefully, with the lights all off. One of the failings that I know that's in the Cessna 172 is that the lights don't work. I think it could be all woven into this internal clock, this internal time, because what's actually happening is that the sim thinks that it's bright daylight at night, and so the switch goes on, the lights go on, but the intensity's not right. So that's what could be going on there. I have a little look, and yes, in my trusty Cessna 172, yes, the brightness switches for the lights now work, but I think it's also to do with things like signage on runways as well. So good news there. So yeah, general bug fixes and backwards compatibility. I've kind of had those really in my mind as 2 and 3. 4 is improvements to aircraft, the fixes that we've got there. So they've fixed an issue causing some aircraft to start with 0 fuel. Well, I'm also wondering if they can fix an issue with aircraft that don't have enough fuel, although there's a workaround for that if you've seen my other videos. LX9070 fixed the glass cockpit there, so if you're flying the DG 1001, that is sorted. Physics has improved if you're into flying helicopters. One of the problems has been things didn't feel quite right if you were landing on platforms, particularly around the edges as you approach, so improvements to that. Timing improvements as well, correct date and time being UTC1 instead of UTC. Number 5 in my estimation now is career and general bug fixes. Now, I've had quite a journey on my career. I think we're taking it as part of the sport of the sim. In some way, some of the complaints that I sort of have, which is, why is my flight not automatically set up, and why is my plane being asked to land in a runway that's unsuitable? Well, you could take it that that's part of the simulation. I mean, as a real life pilot, you would look at the maps of where you're going to land and actually decide in the first place, is it appropriate, rather than trusting the sim. I know it's a bit of a stretch, but actually, you know, it's part of some of those barriers you get over in order to progress in career mode. But there are some real issues there. As I mentioned earlier, missions not starting at the date and time indicated in the briefing, that's been solved. unexpected server error occurring when playing a mission at midnight. I think that's also language for you will no longer have to switch off your sim if you're doing a late night shift about 11:50 and shut your sim down and then open it up at 5 minutes past midnight in order to collect your credits if you are in career mode and if you have other aircraft that are doing missions, passive income. So that's really good. Problems around active pause being sorted, and also disabled the skip phase button while in active pause. So yes, because apparently it's a little bit confusing to have both skip the phase and pausing at the same time. I don't know, but these are all good stuff. On the mission side, I'm quite hopeful here because these are little things that are kind of combining together and making progress a little bit of a nightmare. So wrong input for rotor brake activation. Well, I've not known that with helicopters, but that's good to see. In other words, you're finding something that the mission command is asking you to do and you just can't possibly do it, so you end up aborting. So fix the step announce clear runway that prevented player from reaching the maximum score on airline procedure. I'm not into flying big jets, but it's yet another example of something you simply couldn't do in career mode and you'd have to take the penalty. So that's helpful as well. Remove the ATC step asking to contact the airport arrival if there's no control tower, which both make sense. I mean, how can you contract a control tower that's not there? But also, it was one of those steps that you'd be penalised for because you're not complying with airline procedures. So, yes, that is good news, certainly. So, in other words, you fly those long missions, even though you might have sped them up, you get to that crucial phase and you end up finding that your mission starts to fall apart, or you know that you're going to get a punishment towards the end. You're not going to get full points because you can't comply with what the mission's asking you to do. Fixed an issue with ATC steps no longer completing if player exited the aircraft after turning the engine on. I think that is for the times when you've had to abort because you've forgotten to do a step on the exterior of the aircraft. So, for example, removing a covering, you've jumped in, you've started the engine, and then when you go to the mission command box, it tells you, hang on, stop the engine, go out, sort it, and come back in. You do that, and then you find you lose ATC, and then you give up on the mission because you can't make progress. So I think good news as well. And fixed multiple textual mistakes throughout career and certifications. I think textual mistakes is spelling mistakes. Don't worry me that much. I guess after a while it would start to grate on you. So progress there. And then you can see issues fixed with agricultural aviation where fields were covered with trees. Medevac commands have been sorted. Certifications have been worked on in rotorcraft, and instrument ratings. Fixed an issue with CDI and transponder not configured properly. Well, when I got it, it was just not working at all, so that's really good. Online services repaired. World removed giant trees. Airports, improvements to airports. I've not been that impressed with the in-house airports to date, so I'll be interested to see whether things start to improve themselves. Let's talk library. The library has been significantly improved. Firstly, you'll see more in your library. You'll be able to activate more in your library. And what's more, they've called it a pop-up with loading gauge to feedback on activation, deactivation process time. Basically, they're going to send a little pop-up with a time bar to say, and just to reassure you, if you add or remove a pop-up, if you add and remove an asset, it'll tell you for definite whether it's been done. So that's a significant update to the sim. Fixed swap from a Flight Simulator 2024 item to Flight Simulator 2020 Legacy. I think that is just be encouraged that you're going to have your 2020 mods being able to work in 2024, but also they're making it really clear when a creator of a 2024 mod is saying that yes, this 2020 mod will work with 2024. So joystick navigation issues for those of you struggling just to find your way around the screen. The screen reader actually tells you what is on the tags. That obviously you won't see the tags, but the screen reader will give you more information. and improvements to sorting and filtering. And I really don't know what this last line is. Perhaps in the comment section you could tell me. Improved and fixed some localization. Really don't know what that kind of means at all. On my list, actually, coming to number 8 is peripheral fixes, which is welcome. Apart from I'm not really impressed with having the correct placeholder image for my controller. I mean, it's nice to have. There's some more work to be done here, but they have noticed rotor trim on helicopters needs looking at, and there's improvements made to that in the default profiles. So that should be really good. Fixed inverted left-right brake axis issue, which I never know existed, to be entirely honest with you, but it triggered 100% brake application. The controls, the setting of the controls has been one significant area of concern for within the sim. Also, anecdotally, hearing about people setting up controls, getting it all right, then shutting down Flight Simulator and starting up again, and all of that information appears to be lost. Not sure how much that is continuing to happen, but it's not the most intuitive way of the most intuitive layout, but still good to see things are happening here. So improvements to peripherals. Let's just see whether it makes a difference for you. Let me know in the comment section. Activities. Now, in terms of the training, I didn't find the training detailed enough in one sense, and then I found that the exams were pretty easy, really. There was far less need for sort of precision to get your qualification and move on. But that aside, there's been some spelling mistakes they've corrected in helicopter pedals training, and some little things. Missing engine detent notification. Not sure. Oh, perhaps that is actually something you need to see and read to register during training. Fixed scoring and flow of IFR RNAV training. That is excellent, because as I mentioned earlier, that was really poor. And fixed again spelling mistakes. Is it textual issues, or is it can't read them? I don't know. Seems a bit ambiguous to me. Anyway, so yes, that's what you've got in activities and training. And then free flight, some improvements to free flight, but I didn't really have huge amount of difficulties with free flight itself. Some attention being paid to ensuring there's consistency with lifetime and weather. And then into the development mode, you might not be into this. I mean, if you're a developer, this is way below your level, really. But the improvements to the developer mode are important, because we rely on people having confidence in the software to be able to update the old packages and create new ones. So these things relate to when you're in developer mode and you're using the software to design airports or scenery. Just like any other process, there's nothing more frustrating than things hanging or that software crashing. It's not going to encourage anyone. So improvements to that. Fixed material UV animation. So the developers can see and be absolutely clear on what is happening. I'm not sure about what was behind that error, but helpful. And then significantly, the project editor, which is it's all about this internal process around how the workflow in design, and this is being improved as well with the scenery editor. And I haven't designed using Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, but I have done so with X-Plane 11 and 12. So yes, interesting. SimConnect, which is a crucial piece of software, specific object IDs to request data for aircraft avatar or current user object. I won't pretend to know what that means, but importantly, SimConnect is crucial in linking Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 and other external apps, particularly to do with navigation as well. And you can see SimVars, that's simulation variation, and these are the values that affect and inform what is happening inside the simulator itself. So links here to SimVars producing the correct value that leads on to the sim understanding the altitude a cockpit is at, for example, and also crucially that day of the week, day of the month, month of the year. So it's about the internal clock as far as I can see it. And then WASM API, this is all around the mechanics of how we get our instruments working. So yes, and you'll see reference to Blender towards the bottom as well, and that is around, or there was the last time. Oh, there's Blender there. Yes, it's another external software that's used to design 3D objects for use in the sim. So yeah, perhaps you didn't need that last bit, but that's what we've got.